Okay, we're going to look at the 2-ankle sweep, a few variations. We're going to start in close guard. He goes to slam me. Second variation. Third variation. Standing up. Okay, so that was the fast version. Let's break it down a little bit. We've already looked at the closed guard and how to neutralize or minimize some of the potential damage that he can do from the top. So we know we want to be over the arms, keeping our head up, nice and tight. We talked about one of the ways he'll try to slam you, where he just lifts your back up off of the ground. And I kind of ride him up, like so. Now, there's another thing that he'll try to do when he wants to slam. And he's going to stand up first. Now, if I just hold my legs closed here, go ahead and lift. This is a big slam, big damage that you don't want to have to take. So let's look at what you want to do here. You're going to maintain control of his head for as long as possible to minimize the space that is between you and him, and it's going to kind of lure him into this next technique we're going to do. So head connection, he stands up. I'm going to uncross my feet and keep my butt on the ground, but really keep his head close. So now, if he wants to lift me, he has to use some power. As soon as I feel myself starting to come up off of the ground, here's what I'm going to do. Go ahead and lift just a little. Let go and grab his ankles right here. Raise up. I want to be pinching my knees together and grabbing his ankles right like so. And now all I do is I lift my hips up and knock him backwards. Now, as I go to the top position, what I want to do, pick a side. He's turning that way, no problem. I'm going to use my hand on the ground, very much like the stand-up and base position. This knee is going to touch the floor, my hips come up high. And now I'm just going to make a circular movement with my knee. Let me turn a little bit. So I'm going to make a circular movement with my knee, and I end up right on top of him. Okay? Later on, we'll look at how to combine some submission attacks off of this sweep, but for right now, we're just going to work on knocking the guy off of you. One common mistake or confusion with this position is if you just stand up, when I'm in the position ready to sweep him back. For this technique to be successful, he has to be carrying his own weight on his feet. Okay? Meaning, if his feet are sprawled back really far, and his feet are wide and I can't reach, I won't be able to do it, but it would make much more sense just to pull him forward and get the closed guard again. Okay? So if ever you're trying to struggle and you can't reach, it's probably because you're doing the wrong move. Okay? I can't reach, that means I'm just going to pull him straight in and get the closed guard again. Let's look at it one more time. He stands up. I keep his head uncrossed. My knees are touching together. I wait for him to lift me. His desire to lift is going to put him off balance. Right here, I'm not really even ready. Keep lifting, keep lifting, keep lifting. Now we go. The more he wants to lift me, the more trouble he gets into. I make a circular movement with my foot and end up on top. Our second variation, it's got a benefit and a disadvantage. The benefit is it's going to create a lot of space. So if you just want to get away from the guy, it's going to be very, very powerful. The problem is that you're not going to end up mounted. Okay? But depending on what the circumstance calls for, depending on if you're just trying to get away and make space, you might prefer this variation. Okay? So what happens here, same exact setup. He's going to stand up. His desire is to slam me. This time when I uncross my feet, I'm going to put my feet on his hips. Can you raise up? Heels connected together. Can we face the camera a little bit? Heels connected together so that you make a nice connection to his hip right here. Okay? Now from this position, you're basically like a leg press position. Turn so you don't hit the wall. Yeah. You're basically like a leg press position. So what happens here is as I grab his heels and I push him up, look, he's not even touching the floor. Look how strong my legs are in this position. And I could do this with a lot of power and knock him several feet back. I'm going to do it slowly because Dax is my friend and I don't want him to get hurt. Bad guy, make sure you do a good break fall here and tuck your chin in so you don't injure yourself on the fall. Here we go. Yeah, work on that break fall, right? So the danger here is as I get up, his feet can go kind of wild and crazy. He might like try to be kicking and flailing, so I don't want to get injured in the face. So rather than try to go on top of him, I'm just going to do a little crab walk here. Moving back. Now when his feet are in like no position to hit me, I'm going to go ahead and stand up in base Now I'm ready to go on top of him. Most people have no idea how to get up properly from that position. So you're going to have the advantage knowing how to stand up and base. Okay? Our last variation, this one happens to be useful both for self-defense and for sportive applications. We call it the standing hook flip. He's standing up. We're in the stage 4 position, and sometimes what happens is he's just kind of hovering over you. Okay? He's not really trying to smash your face all the time. He's not backing away, but he's just kind of hanging out. He hasn't really figured out what he wants to do to get around your feet. So, in this position, when my feet are making contact here, there's an opportunity for me to use this reversal. So what I want to do is pick a side to go to. What I'm going to do is put one foot on his knee, and that's going to allow me to rotate my body. I'm going to try to trap his heel. If possible, I'd like to get his wrist. If I don't get the wrist, I can still make the move work, but I'd like to get his wrist if possible. All right, so let's say for right now I've got his wrist. Now, this foot that I just used to turn my body is going to slip behind his knee, and now I'm making 3 movements. Can you raise up real quick? The foot that's on his hip is pushing, the foot that's on the heel is pulling, and the foot behind the knee is pulling simultaneously, so it's like this. The arm that I'm holding on to is going to help me go to the top position and also make it harder for him to stop me from going on top. So if we go back to the position, I'm here, I make my turn, I get the wrist and heel, my foot comes behind. Now watch, as I pull his heel towards me, he's going to fall here. Now freeze. Can you sit up for a sec? Sit up. So what happens here is I'm going to take my foot off of his hip and go between his legs, but my knee stays on the outside. So now look, I use my hand on the ground for base, I start pushing his wrist into his body, and I'm going over him like this. I'm going to hug his neck, put my weight down on him, and step my leg out. His foot is still trapped, then I'm in side control. Side control. Okay, let's look at it one more time. If we were to do it and I didn't have the wrist, can you stand up again? If we were to do it and I didn't have the wrist, there might be a potential for him to stand up and base right now. See, I didn't really complete the move. But anyways, I got him off of me. But as you can see, if I hold the wrist, it gives me a little more option as far as to control him. So I'm here, I make my spin. Can you turn a little bit? So once again, this foot was here on the hip. Now we're on the hip, the knee. I pivot, wrist control. Slip my foot behind the knee. I pull, coil my foot, use my hand on the ground for base, and push this into his body. You turn a little bit, head towards the table. Yeah. So here we go. I'm pushing his hand in, hand on the ground for base. This knee is over his leg. My foot is on the other side, so his leg is very trapped here. Now I want to hug his neck. You could also go on the opposite side, elbow next to the ear. That's a preference thing. Knee comes in close to the hip, you step back, and then change your position, and you establish the side control. Okay? So that will be the 2 ankle sweep and the standing hook flip.